Welcome to Project Management Hardcore, episode 11, folks. Thanks for sticking with me. We've got folks listening from all over the world now. Egypt, that was kind of surprising. Canada, Australia, Belgium, and many other countries. India, of course, Pakistan, Iran, the U.S., we've got a huge following now, which is great. So all I'm trying to do is help everybody out. I don't write any books about this, and I don't make any money on this. I'm just trying to help you all out and pass my experience on to you. So if you've listened to most of the episodes, it should be pretty easy. And I'm doing another project now, same way I've taught you to do it, the same way all the episodes talk about doing it, and it's working out great. So today we're going to talk about how to do executive presentations. They're different than a regular presentation you give to a group of folks or your peers, obviously. So you've got to think about it that way. So let's start. We will go through the thought process of doing an executive presentation. So first of all, sometimes it's once a month. If they're really bad, they want it once a week, but that's okay, because the way I'm going to tell you to do it, it'll work out pretty quick, and then you'll just make certain changes every week. So first thing you do is you can put together PowerPoint slides or whatever you use, obviously, and what do you want to tell them? What have you been doing? And put it out there. So let's say we say we're working on this. Here's one slide. We're working on this. We've done this. We've done that. We've done this. We've done this. And you have maybe 10, 15 slides, right? Well, you got it all out of your system. You got all the information out there. And you went through it with your head. You went through it with your team. And that's a good thing, because you're all reviewing what you've done. You're all talking about what you've done. And that's the way to get to the final presentation, right? Just like writing a short story or a novel. You write, and then you start editing, and you get rid of a bunch of stuff. And presentations is the same way. But an executive presentation, you get rid of a lot of stuff. So, where do we have to be? So one of the things, let's look at I think there are 4 things you have to tell them. What have you done? What are your next steps? What are the risks? And what is the ask? Do you have anything to ask them for? What help do you need? What's missing? Where can they help you? So once again, what have you done? What are your next steps? What are the major risks? Not all of them. And what are the asks? So this is one slide. Break it up into 4 quadrants. And this is one slide. I usually put everything out there I want to, just work on slides. Usually I end up with 10 or something like that. So what does that do for you? Well, that gives you the things you really want to talk about, the things you want to mention. And you should prepare for these. If it's once a month, you should obviously, be preparing them 2 or 3 weeks beforehand so you can discuss them with your team. And every week you spend some time with your team discussing them and going over them. And once you get it down to the 1 and max 2 slides, you can add some stuff if you need to, obviously. Once you get it down to that, then you practice it. You practice it every day with whoever is going to be giving it. It could be just you, the project manager. I usually have some of the core team talk about some part of it. So it gives everybody some ownership, right? And you practice it every single day, until you do it. It shouldn't take long at all. So let me give you a quick example. So the last one I did, we started off with 15 slides. 15. Everything we wanted in there, all the talk about the scope diagram, the key points of the scope diagram, this is in the beginning of the project, the key points of the warp breakdown structure, and then, what are our next steps, what other things did we do, project charter, project management plan, all that stuff. And then what are the major risks? And I usually just put three major risks. And then what are the asks? What do I need of you? So we went over this with my team over and over again. We went from 15 slides to 10 slides. And we finally ended up with 3 slides for this one. One slide, since this is the beginning of the project, one slide went over the key points of the scope. What are the key parts of the scope that you have to, in other words, what's in scope, key things, and what are the key things out of scope and why? That's one slide. The second slide were what are the key deliverables, all right, from the WBS. And of course, in the scope diagrams I do and in the work breakdown structure I do, just like I showed you, there's definitions for every bubble in the scope diagram, and there's definition for every thing in the work breakdown structure. You define that so folks can read it, and if they wonder what you're talking about, they can go and read the definition, and they may agree or disagree, and then you work it out with them, obviously, to get it right. Because all that has to be clear before the project actually gets into the operations phase, right? So you don't want to do any operations without everybody being clear what's in and out of scope, like I've said many times before, and exactly what the deliverables are. So that's why you put those definitions in there. It's work, but it's definitely worth it because it's less work when everybody agrees, right? So that was the first 2 slides. And the third slide was broken up into 4 quadrants. What have we done? Again, of course, the scope, the breakdown structure, the project charter, the project management plan, the project communications plan. These are the things we've done, right? And one of the quadrants, what are the next steps? The other quadrant, the 3 major risks. And the other one, what is the ask? What help do we need, if any? And if there isn't any in that quadrant, you just say, no ask, nothing, right? Now, this is the beginning of the project. So after this, there'll only be 1 slide for an executive brief. It will be the slide that's broken up into 4 quadrants. What have we accomplished so far? What are the next steps? What are the 3 major risks now? Could have changed from the beginning. And what is the ask? If it's once a month or once a week, there may not be any ask for that time, but sooner or later you'll have an ask. Or maybe not. Maybe you're that good. So you put it in there. They don't want to hear all the little nooks and crannies of everything you've worked on, everything you've done. The executives don't want to hear that. They're busy. They may be getting briefs from 20, 30 projects, depending on how big the company is, depending on how big the agency is, right? So they don't want to hear that. Think about it. In their mind is, okay, what have they accomplished in this project? What are they doing next? What are the major risks so I can report those up the chain of command? And then what do they need? Do they need help from me? That's it. And that all goes in 1 slide. That's it. They don't want to hear anything else. They're too busy doing other things. Planning, strategically planning. So you guys are doing the tactical stuff, right? So they're doing this, they're working out the strategy and making sure, if all the projects are moving along nicely, and if there's anything that the project needs if there are any obstacles that comes up, they can help fix them. So that is what you do with executive presentations. You make sure it's brief. You make sure you're only talking about what you've done, what you're doing next, what the risks are, and if you need any help. That's it for them. They need to move on. These folks are in meetings all day. They're busy all day. They don't need to know the nitty-gritty of everything you've done all week. That's almost an ego thing, right? I've done this, I've done that. Hey, here's all my definitions. You imagine going through a work breakdown structure, a scope diagram, and having 15, 20 slides and reading, going over all the definitions and that sort of stuff. They don't want to hear that. That's what they have you for, right? To get that work done and to do those definitions so you actually make it clear to everybody on the project where you're going and what you're doing. But that's it. So any kind of executive presentation that you're doing, make sure it's simple, precise, and you're just giving them the bottom line. They don't need to know your details. They don't need to know what you're doing every day. Your ego, of course, wants to put that out there, but don't do it. Essentially just tell them what you've done, where you're going, what are the major risks, because they may be able to help you with some of those, right? And they'll want to know. And then if it does go wrong, at least they know, okay, he's thought of it and he's figured out how to get beyond that, or he's asked me for help to get beyond that. And then the asks. So all that can be in one PowerPoint slide. And if you have to fill more than one slide, then cut it down. You definitely have under 10 minutes to get your point across to them. It should be really something under 8 minutes. Because after that, they'll start asking questions and you'll never get to any other slide. That's why it should be one slide. As soon as they start asking questions, that's it. So it should be one slide under 8 minutes that you can put it out there quickly, and then they can ask all the questions you want. So it's a half-hour meeting. That's all you should schedule with an executive. If it's a half-hour meeting, 8 minutes, and then you got the rest of the time for them to ask questions. So that's exactly the way you want to work executive presentations. Make them brief, make them to the point, and they don't need to hear all the details ever. Unless they ask, most of the time, all my years of experience, they've never asked that. So they just need to know, obviously, where you are, where you're going, risks, and what the ask is. So that's it. That's it for today. It's obviously shorter than most of the others, but I think it's very important for you to understand how to work with executive presentations and what they really want to hear from you. And that's it. Y'all have a great day. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you in episode 12. Thanks very much.